picked the wrong man to frame.
The text message glowed on my wife's phone like a neon sign in a dive bar. Can't wait to be alone with you at 30,000 feet. T. I'm Nate Roswell, 41 years old, and I fix planes for a living. Not the glamorous kind of aviation work. I'm the guy who crawls into engine compartments covered in grease while rich people sip champagne in the cabin. My wife Fiona always made sure I knew the difference. You're reading my messages now? Fiona's voice cut through the kitchen like ice. She stood in the doorway wearing a designer dress that cost more than I made in a month, her blonde hair perfectly styled, even though it was 7 in the morning. Your phone was buzzing on the counter. I thought it might be Emily's school. I set the phone down carefully, watching her face. After 15 years of marriage, I knew every micro-expression that crossed those sharp features. It's work! She snatched the phone, clutching it against her chest. Trent Galloway is a client. We're planning a PR campaign for his investment firm. Trent Galloway. I'd heard that name whispered around our house for months, usually followed by Fiona's nervous laughter or sudden subject changes. The guy owned half of Denver's commercial real estate and had a private jet that made Air Force One look modest. Since when does PR work involve being alone at 30,000 feet? Fiona's laugh was brittle. You wouldn't understand. It's sophisticated marketing strategy, not grease and bolt tightening. There it was. The dismissive tone that had become her default setting over the past year. Everything I did was beneath her now. My job, my friends, my hobbies, even the way I buttered toast apparently lacked sophistication. Daddy! Emily burst into the kitchen like a 4-year-old tornado, her dark curls bouncing. She wore pajamas covered in cartoon airplanes, a gift I'd given her that Fiona had tried to throw away. Are we going to see the planes today? Not today, sweetheart. I lifted her onto my lap, breathing in that unique kid smell of strawberry shampoo and innocence. Daddy has to work. I hate when you work. Emily's lower lip jutted out in a perfect pout. The planes miss you. The planes will survive, Fiona said, checking her reflection in her phone screen. Emily, eat your breakfast. I'm dropping you at Mother's house before my flight. My stomach dropped. What flight? The Galloway account requires a site visit to their Aspen property. I'll be back tomorrow night. She was already moving toward the door, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor like a countdown timer. Fiona, wait. I stood up, Emily still clinging to my neck. We need to talk about... The front door slammed shut, cutting off my words. Through the window, I watched her climb into her BMW and speed away without looking back. Emily tugged on my shirt. Daddy, why does Mommy always leave? Good question, kid. I'd been wondering the same thing for months. Sometimes grown-ups have important work to do, but as I helped Emily get dressed for school, my mind kept circling back to that text message. 30,000 feet. Trent's private jet cruised at exactly that altitude. I knew because I'd done maintenance work on it last year. The Gulfstream G650 was a beautiful machine, all sleek lines and cutting-edge technology. I dropped Emily at my mother-in-law's mansion in Cherry Hills Village, enduring Gloria Sterling's usual disapproving glare. The woman had never forgiven her daughter for marrying a mechanic instead of another trust fund baby. Nathaniel, she said my name like it tasted bad. I trust you'll pick Emily up at a reasonable hour. Some of us have social obligations. Yes, ma'am. I'd learned years ago that arguing with Gloria was like trying to reason with a hurricane, pointless and potentially destructive. At work, I couldn't concentrate. My hands went through the motions of checking hydraulic systems and testing avionics, but my brain kept replaying Fiona's reaction to that text. The way she'd grabbed her phone, the defensive posture, the immediate deflection to work. My brother Dean found me in the hangar around lunchtime, staring at a disassembled engine without really seeing it. You look like someone ran over your dog. Dean was 3 years younger, but had always been the responsible one. He flew commercial jets for United, all crisp uniform and captain's authority. What's eating you? I told him about the text message, about Fiona's strange behavior over the past few months, about the growing distance between us that felt like a canyon. Dean listened without interrupting, his pilot's training making him good at processing information before reacting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Nate, I need to tell you something. Last week I was deadheading on a flight to Aspen. I saw Fiona at the private terminal, Getting cozy with some guy in an expensive suit. Really cozy. The wrench slipped from my hand, clattering against the concrete floor. You're sure it was her? 100%. She was wearing that red dress you bought her for your anniversary. The guy had his arm around her waist, and she was laughing like I haven't seen her laugh in years. My chest felt tight, like someone was slowly turning a vice. Did you see his face? Older guy, silver hair, looked like he owned the place. Had that entitled rich guy swagger. Trent Galloway. It had to be. The pieces were falling into place like a perfectly calibrated engine, each part fitting exactly where it was supposed to go. Dean, I need a favor. You still have access to flight logs? My brother's expression grew serious. Nate, whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking my wife is having an affair, and I need to know the truth before I blow up my daughter's life. Dean studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. Give me 24 hours. That night, I sat in Emily's room after putting her to bed, watching her sleep and trying to figure out how everything had gone so wrong. When had Fiona stopped looking at me like I mattered? When had I become just the help in my own marriage? My phone buzzed. A text from Fiona. Landed safely. Don't wait up. I stared at the message, noting what it didn't say. No, I love you. No, miss you. Just a cold update, like she was checking in with her assistant. The next morning, Dean showed up at my house with a manila folder and a grim expression. You're not going to like this, he said, spreading flight logs across my kitchen table. Galloway's jet has made 15 trips in the past 3 months. Guess who was on the passenger manifest for 12 of them? There it was in black and white. Fiona Sterling Roswell, listed it as a passenger on flights to Aspen, Las Vegas, Miami, and half a dozen other destinations. All overnight trips, all with Trent Galloway. There's more. Dean pulled out printed emails. My contact in the tower owed me a favor. These are communications between Galloway's pilot and flight control. I read over his shoulder, my anger building with each line. References to Mr. G and his lady friend. Requests for privacy screens. Orders for champagne and strawberries, Fiona's favorites. 6 months, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She's been lying to me for 6 months. Nate, I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear. But the thing was, part of me was almost relieved. The distance, the cold shoulders, the constant criticism, it all made sense now. I wasn't losing my mind. My marriage really was falling apart, and it wasn't entirely my fault. What are you going to do? Dean asked. I looked at the evidence spread across my table, then at the framed photo of Emily on the windowsill. My daughter deserved better than this, better than parents who lived a lie. I'm going to find out exactly what my wife and her boyfriend are planning, I said. And then I'm going to make sure they regret underestimating the grease monkey. Gloria Sterling's mansion always made me feel like I was trespassing, and even though I'd been family for 15 years. The place screamed old money, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and enough antique furniture to stock a museum. I'd come to pick up Emily, but Gloria's housekeeper informed me that my daughter was napping, and Mrs. Sterling wanted to speak with me privately. I found Gloria in her study, a room that looked like it belonged to a Supreme Court justice. She sat behind a massive mahogany desk, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, wearing pearls that probably cost more than my truck. Sit down, Nathaniel. She gestured to a chair that felt designed to make visitors feel small. We need to discuss your marriage. I'm not sure that's any of your business, Gloria. Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Everything involving my daughter is my business, especially when it affects my granddaughter's future. I settled back in the chair, trying to project calm while my pulse hammered. What's on your mind? Fiona is unhappy. She has been for quite some time. Gloria opened a leather portfolio on her desk. She deserves better than this. She gestured vaguely at me, like I was a stain on her carpet. Better than what exactly? A man who can provide for her properly. Someone who moves in appropriate social circles. Someone who understands that marriage is about more than romantic feelings. The condescension in her voice made my teeth ache. Someone like Trent Galloway? Gloria's composure slipped for just a moment. A tiny flinch that told me everything I needed to know. Mr. Galloway is a successful businessman and a family friend. He's shown Fiona the kind of life she could have. The kind of life she could have without me, you mean? You're not stupid, Nathaniel, despite what your profession might suggest. You must see that this marriage has run its course. I leaned forward, meeting her cold stare. And Emily, what happens to her in this grand plan? Emily will be provided for, properly educated, given opportunities you could never afford. She'll want for nothing, except her father. Gloria's laugh was like breaking glass. Children are resilient. She'll adjust. The casual way she dismissed my relationship with my daughters made something hot and dangerous rise in my chest. I'm not going anywhere, Gloria. Emily is my daughter. Biology doesn't make you a father, Nathaniel. Stability does. Security does. Can you honestly say you can give Emily the life she deserves on a mechanic's salary? Before I could answer, the study door opened and Fiona walked in, looking like she'd stepped off a magazine cover despite having supposedly just returned from a business trip. She kissed her mother's cheek but barely glanced at me. Mother, I didn't know Nate was here. We were just discussing your situation, dear. Fiona's eyes darted between us, and I saw something I hadn't noticed before. Guilt, maybe, or fear. What situation? Your marriage, I said, and your relationship with Trent Galloway. The color drained from Fiona's face. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. I pulled out my phone and showed her the flight logs Dean had given me. 12 flights in 3 months, Fiona. Want to explain that? She looked at the screen, then at her mother, then back at me. When she spoke, her voice was different, harder, more like Gloria's. Fine, yes, I've been seeing Trent. Our marriage has been over for years, Nate. We both know it. Do we? Because I thought we were just going through a rough patch. Fiona laughed, but there was no humor in it. A rough patch? Nate, I can't breathe in this life. The tiny house, the boring friends, the constant smell of jet fuel on your clothes. I'm suffocating. So you decided to have an affair instead of talking to me about it. I decided to find someone who could give me what I need, what Emily needs. Emily needs her father. Emily needs stability, private schools, college funds, a future that doesn't involve wondering if Daddy will have work next month. The attack on my ability to provide stung because it hit close to home. Aviation maintenance was steady work, but it wasn't luxury lifestyle money. I'd always worried about giving Emily everything she deserved. Gloria leaned forward, sensing weakness. Trent has offered to set up a trust fund for Emily. Full college tuition, graduate school if she wants it. A head start in life that you simply cannot provide. In exchange for what? Me disappearing? In exchange for being reasonable, Fiona said. We can make this easy, Nate. Uncontested divorce, joint custody, everyone moves on with their lives. Joint custody while you and Trent play house. Trent cares about Emily. He's already talking about adoption over my dead body. The words came out harder than I intended, making both women step back. Gloria's mask slipped completely, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. That can be arranged if necessary, Nathaniel. Trent has resources you can't imagine. Lawyers, investigators, connections. If you fight this, we will destroy you. Threaten me all you want, Gloria. I'm not signing away my daughter. Then you're a fool. She opened her portfolio and slid a document across the desk. This is a custody agreement. Very generous, considering. Weekend visitation, 2 weeks in summer, major holidays alternating years. Sign it, and this ends quietly. I picked up the paper, scanning the legal language. It was comprehensive, clearly prepared by expensive attorneys. They'd been planning this for months. And if I don't sign? Fiona and Gloria exchanged a look that made my stomach drop. Then we'll have to pursue other options, Gloria said. Trent has been very patient, but his patience isn't infinite. The threat hung in the air like smoke. I folded the custody agreement and put it in my pocket. I need time to think about this. You have 48 hours, Gloria said. After that, things become complicated. I went upstairs to get Emily, my mind racing. She was awake, playing with a dollhouse that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Daddy, she ran to me, wrapping her arms around my legs. I missed you. I missed you too, sweetheart. I knelt down to her level, studying her face. She had my eyes, but Fiona's delicate features. Did you have fun with Grandma Gloria? She's not very fun. She doesn't like my airplane pajamas. Emily's expression grew serious. Daddy, are you and Mommy getting divorced? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Why would you ask that, baby? I heard Grandma Gloria talking on the phone. She said you were going to go away, and I would have a new daddy. I pulled Emily close, feeling her small heartbeat against my chest. Nobody is replacing me as your daddy, Em. Nobody. Do you understand? She nodded against my shoulder. Promise? Promise. But as we drove home, I wondered if that was a promise I could keep. Gloria Sterling had money, connections, and lawyers. Trent Galloway had even more. What did I have? A high school education, a blue-collar job, and a 15-year-old truck. What I had was love for my daughter and a growing determination to fight for her. They might have underestimated the grease monkey, but they were about to learn that mechanics know how to fix things that are broken and how to take apart things that don't belong. That night, after Emily was asleep, I called my old Air Force buddy Omar Hassan. He worked for the FBI now, Cybercrime Division, and owed me more than one favor from our military days. Nate, it's been too long. How's civilian life treating you? Not great, Omar. I need help, and I need it to stay between us. What kind of help? I told him everything, the affair, the threats, the custody agreement. Omar listened without interrupting, his analytical mind processing the information. These people are playing hardball, he said when I finished. You sure you want to get in the ring with them? They threatened to take my daughter away from me. I don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice, brother, but I understand yours. Omar was quiet for a moment. Give me some names and I'll see what I can find. Rich people always have secrets, and secrets leave digital footprints. What kind of secrets? The kind that make custody threats disappear real quick. Trust me, Nate. If these people have skeletons, I'll find them. After hanging up, I sat in my garage, surrounded by the tools and equipment that defined my working life. Fiona was right about one thing. I wasn't sophisticated. I didn't move in elite social circles or own multiple homes. But I knew how to build things, fix things, and when necessary, take things apart piece by piece. Trent Galloway and the Sterling family wanted a war? They were about to discover that the grease monkey had some tricks they'd never seen before. Omar's call came at 6 in the morning, 3 days after my confrontation with Gloria and Fiona. I was already awake, staring at the ceiling and trying to figure out how to fight people with unlimited resources and no conscience. Nate, you need to hear this. Can you get to a secure location? I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Emily, who'd been sleeping in my room since learning about the divorce. Give me 5 minutes. I drove to the airport, using my security clearance to access a maintenance hangar where we could talk without being overheard. Omar was waiting by my workbench, looking like he hadn't slept in days. What did you find? More than I expected. Omar opened his laptop, showing me a series of financial documents. Trent Galloway isn't just having an affair with your wife. He's planning to marry her, adopt Emily, and gain access to something you probably don't even know about. What are you talking about? Your father's estate, the property in Montana he left you when he died 5 years ago. I frowned. That land isn't worth anything. It's just 100 acres of wilderness. Wrong. Omar pulled up a geological survey. It's sitting on one of the largest lithium deposits in North America, worth about $50 million conservatively. The information hit me like a hydraulic failure at altitude. That's impossible. Dad would have known. The survey was completed 6 months after your father's death. Somehow, Galloway found out about it before you did. Omar's expression was grim. He's been planning this whole thing, Nate. The affair, the divorce, everything. Once he marries Fiona and adopts Emily, he'll have legal claim to that land through family connection. How is that possible? Montana inheritance laws is complicated, especially when minor children are involved. If Emily becomes his adopted daughter and Fiona is your ex-wife, they can challenge your sole ownership. With the right lawyers and judges, they might win. My hands were shaking with rage. So this was never about love or happiness. It was about money. $50 million makes people do terrible things. Omar closed the laptop. But here's the thing. I found something else. Something they don't know you know. What? They're planning to take you up in Galloway's jet tomorrow. Some kind of family meeting to discuss the divorce terms. Except you're not coming back down. The hangar suddenly felt very cold. What do you mean? I hacked into Gloria Sterling's email account. There's a message thread between her, Fiona, and Galloway discussing an accident over the mountains. Mechanical failure. No survivors. Very tragic. I sat down hard on a tool chest, my legs suddenly unsteady. They're planning to eliminate me? Frame you for the crash, actually. The plan is to make it look like you snapped, tried to crash the plane, and caused everyone's death, including Emily. Emily? The word came out as a strangled whisper. She's supposed to be on the flight too. Collateral damage. Omar's voice was tight with anger. These people are monsters, Nate. I thought about my 4-year-old daughter sleeping peacefully in my bed, trusting that her daddy would protect her from the world. The idea that her own mother would sacrifice her for money made something break inside me. Show me the emails. Omar pulled up the message thread. Reading it was like watching a horror movie, except the victims were my family and me. They discussed timing, weather conditions, and how to disable the plane's emergency beacon. Gloria had even researched which mountains would be best for hiding wreckage. There's more, Omar said quietly. They've already filed life insurance claims. $2 million on you, $1 million on Emily. The policies were taken out 3 months ago. Fiona signed Emily up for life insurance, with Galloway as the beneficiary if anything happens to both parents. They've thought of everything. I stared at the emails, trying to process the level of betrayal involved. The woman I'd loved for 15 years, the mother of my child, was planning to end us both for money. What do I do, Omar? If I don't show up for this meeting, they'll get suspicious. If I do show up, you die. Omar closed the laptop. Unless we turn the tables on them. How? We give them exactly what they want. A flight with you and Emily aboard. Except we control the narrative. Omar outlined his plan. It was dangerous, requiring precise timing and more than a little luck. But it was the only way to expose their conspiracy and save Emily's life. You sure about this? Omar asked. If we mess up, you're both dead. If we don't try, we're dead anyway. The next morning, I dressed Emily in her favorite airplane pajamas and packed a small bag like we were going on a fun family trip. She was excited about flying in a fancy plane, having no idea that her mother and grandmother were planning to end her. Will there be peanuts? Emily asked as we drove to the private airport. Probably better than peanuts, sweetheart. Will Mommy be nice to you? The question broke my heart. Even at 4 years old, Emily had noticed the tension between her parents. Mommy and I are going to have some important conversations today. Are you getting divorced? I glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Would that scare you? Emily considered this seriously. A little. But Tyler at school says divorce isn't so bad. He gets 2 Christmases now. Well, no matter what happens with Mommy and me, you'll always be my little girl. That will never change. Promise? Promise. At the airport, Galloway's Gulfstream G650 sat on the tarmac like a predatory bird. I'd worked on this exact plane 6 months earlier, which gave me advantages they didn't know about. While performing routine maintenance, I'd installed a backup emergency beacon in case the primary system failed. Standard safety protocol that most owners never bothered with. Fiona waited by the plane's stairs, looking nervous, but trying to project normalcy. She wore a blue dress that I'd always loved, which felt like another betrayal. You're right on time, she said, kissing Emily's forehead. Are you excited about flying in Trent's plane, baby? It's so big. Emily ran toward the aircraft, her excitement genuine and heartbreaking. Galloway emerged from the cabin, all silver hair and practiced charm. Nate, good to finally meet you properly. I've heard so much about you. I shook his hand, resisting the urge to break his fingers. All good things, I hope. Of course. Fiona speaks very highly of your skills. The condescension was subtle but unmistakable. This man saw me as a problem to be eliminated, not a person with thoughts and feelings. Gloria arrived in a black Mercedes, dressed like she was attending a funeral. Which, I supposed, she was, mine. Nathaniel, I trust you've considered our offer? I have, that's why we're here. We boarded the jet, Emily marveling at the leather seats and polished wood trim. The cabin could seat 12 people, but today it held only 5, 3 predators, 1 innocent child, and me. As we taxied for takeoff, I activated the recording app Omar had installed on my phone, hidden in my jacket pocket. If this went wrong, at least there would be evidence of their intentions. So, Galloway said once we reached cruising altitude, Fiona tells me you're ready to discuss terms. I'm ready to discuss a lot of things. I looked at each of them in turn, starting with my father's land in Montana. The temperature in the cabin seemed to drop 10 degrees. Gloria's face went pale, and Fiona suddenly found her fingernails very interesting. I'm not sure what you mean, Galloway said, but his casual tone was forced. The lithium deposit. $50 million worth of lithium sitting under property that belongs to me. I smiled at their shocked expressions. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Emily looked up from her coloring book. What's lithium, Daddy? Something very valuable, sweetheart. Something that makes people do terrible things. Gloria recovered first, her voice sharp with anger. You have no proof of anything. Actually, I do. I pulled out my phone, showing them screenshots of their emails. A planned fatal incident, conspiracy, insurance fraud. That's life in prison for all of you. Fiona lunged for my phone, but I pulled it away. Give me that. Sit down, Fiona. My voice carried an authority that surprised even me. We're going to have an honest conversation for once. Galloway pressed a button on his armrest, and I heard the cockpit door lock click. I'm afraid that's not going to happen, Nate. Daddy. Emily's voice was small and scared. What's happening? It's okay, baby. Just some grown-up problems. But it wasn't okay. Gloria was opening a briefcase, removing what looked like a small explosive device. Galloway was putting on a parachute, while Fiona did the same. You see, Nate, Gloria said, her mask finally completely off. We planned for the possibility that you might discover our arrangement. This is Plan B. You're going to blow up the plane with Emily aboard? We're going to make it look like you did. Galloway checked his parachute straps. A staged fatal scenario. Distraught father takes everyone down with him, then crashes the plane. The three of you are just going to parachute out and leave us to die? We'll be found miles away, lucky survivors of your psychotic break. Fiona was struggling with her parachute harness, her hands shaking. I'm sorry, Nate, I really am. But this is bigger than just us now. Emily started crying, sensing the danger even if she didn't understand it. I unbuckled my seatbelt and moved to comfort her, but Galloway blocked my path. Stay where you are. She's 4 years old, you bastard. She's collateral damage. Gloria activated the timer on the explosive device. 5 minutes. Nothing personal, Nathaniel. Just business. They moved toward the plane's emergency exit, preparing to jump. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated the grease monkey's knowledge of aircraft systems. While they fumbled with the exit door, I reached under my seat and activated the backup emergency beacon I'd installed months earlier. Omar would be tracking our location, and rescue teams would know exactly where to look. Then I did something that 15 years of marriage had taught me. I pushed Fiona's buttons. You know what's funny? I called out as they prepared to jump. Emily's going to grow up knowing her mother was responsible for what happened. That's quite a legacy, Fee. Fiona hesitated, her hand on the door release. She won't remember. She's too young. She'll remember that Mommy left her behind. That'll stick with her forever. Shut up! Fiona's composure cracked completely. You think you're so noble, but you were never good enough for me? Never. Maybe not, but at least I never tried to sacrifice my own daughter. Gloria grabbed Fiona's arm. We're leaving, now! But Fiona was having a breakdown, years of guilt and self-loathing finally surfacing. I can't do this. She's my baby. She's dead weight, Galloway snarled, shoving Fiona toward the door. Move! That's when I made my move. While they were distracted by Fiona's crisis of conscience, I grabbed Emily and ran toward the cockpit, hoping the door wasn't actually locked. It wasn't. Galloway had been bluffing. The pilot was unconscious, probably incapacitated, but I'd flown enough military aircraft to understand the basics. I grabbed the radio and started broadcasting on emergency frequency. Mayday, Mayday. This is Gulfstream November 74 Alpha Tango. We have an explosive device on board and need immediate assistance. Behind me, I could hear shouting and struggling. Fiona had apparently decided she couldn't go through with hurting Emily, and Gloria was trying to force her out the door. The timer on the bomb showed 2 minutes remaining. I strapped Emily into the co-pilot seat and started looking for parachutes. There had to be emergency equipment somewhere. Daddy, look! Emily pointed out the window. Fighter jets. 2 F-16s flying alongside us, close enough that I could see the pilots' helmets. Omar had come through. The lead pilot's voice crackled over the radio. Gulfstream November 74 Alpha Tango. This is Falcon 1. We're here to assist. What's your situation? Explosive device, 90 seconds on the timer. 3 hostiles, 1 child, 1 unconscious pilot. Copy that. We're clearing airspace below you. Prepare for emergency descent. I looked back into the cabin. Gloria and Galloway had given up on Fiona and were preparing to jump without her. Fiona sat on the floor, crying hysterically. 60 seconds. Emily, hold on tight, okay? We're going to go down fast. Like a roller coaster? Exactly like a roller coaster. I pushed the yoke forward, sending the Gulf Stream into a steep descent. The sudden change in pressure made my ears pop, but it also made it impossible for Gloria and Galloway to open the exit door. The pressure differential was too great. 30 seconds. The altimeter spun wildly as we dropped through 15,000 feet, then 10,000. Below us, I could see emergency vehicles racing toward a cleared runway. 15 seconds. Brace for impact! I pulled back on the yoke, trying to level out our descent. The plane shuddered and groaned but held together. 10 seconds. We hit the runway hard, bouncing twice before the landing gear found purchase. I cut the engines and hit every emergency switch I could find. 5 seconds. Everyone out, now! I grabbed Emily and ran for the exit, Fiona stumbling behind us. Gloria and Galloway were trapped in the back, the door mechanism jammed from our hard landing. We made it about 50 yards before the explosion lit up the sky behind us. The blast knocked us flat. Emily's small body pressed against mine as debris rained down around us. When the ringing in my ears subsided, I could hear sirens, shouting voices, and my daughter crying. It's okay, baby, we're okay. I held her tight, checking for injuries. She had some scrapes and her airplane pajamas were torn, but she was alive. We were both alive. Fiona lay a few feet away, conscious but dazed. A thin line of red trickled from a cut on her forehead, and she stared at the burning wreckage with vacant eyes. They're dead, she whispered. Mother and Trent are dead. Emergency responders swarmed the area. Paramedics, firefighters, FBI agents, and Omar, who looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour. Jesus, Nate. When you said you needed help, I thought you meant legal advice, not a military rescue operation. Thanks for the backup. I stood up slowly, my back screaming from the impact. Did you get everything? Omar held up a recording device. Every word. The planned attack, the insurance fraud, the lithium deposit scheme. It's all documented. A paramedic approached, wanting to check Emily for injuries. She clung to me, traumatized by the explosion and chaos. I want to go home, Daddy. We will, sweetheart. Just let the nice lady make sure you're not hurt. While Emily was examined, I gave my statement to FBI agents. The whole story came out, the affair, the threats, the planned crash, the staged fatal scenario. They'd found enough evidence in the wreckage to confirm everything Omar had discovered. Fiona was arrested on charges of conspiracy to cause a fatal incident, insurance fraud, and child endangerment. As they led her away in handcuffs, she looked back at Emily with something that might have been regret. Tell her I'm sorry, she said to me. Tell her I loved her. You tried to take her away forever, Fiona. Love doesn't work that way. The next few days were a blur of interviews, legal proceedings, and media attention. The story of the mechanic who foiled a deadly plot made national news, with reporters camping outside my house and calling Emily's school. Omar helped me navigate the chaos, using his FBI connections to keep the worst of the media circus at bay. Dean took leave from his airline job to help with Emily, who was struggling to understand why Mommy was gone and why strangers kept taking pictures of our house. Daddy, are we famous? She asked one morning over breakfast. For a little while, but it'll pass. Is Mommy coming home? This was the hardest question, the one I'd been dreading. No, sweetheart. Mommy made some very bad choices, and now she has to face the consequences. Will I see her again? Maybe someday, when you're older, if you want to. Emily nodded solemnly, processing this information with the resilience that children somehow possess. Can we visit the planes today? I miss the planes. Sure, baby, we can visit the planes. At the airport, life continued as normal. Mechanics worked on engines, pilots filed flight plans, and passengers hurried to catch their connections. The routine was comforting after the chaos of the past week. My supervisor, Bill Martinez, found me in the hangar where it all started. Heck of a thing, Nate. How you holding up? One day at a time. I was working on a Cessna engine, letting the familiar task calm my nerves. Any word on when I can come back to work? That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Bill looked uncomfortable. The company's been getting calls. Reporters, lawyers, people wanting to know about your access to aircraft systems. My stomach dropped. Are you firing me? No, nothing like that, but corporate wants you to take some time off. Paid leave, full benefits, let things cool down. It made sense from a business perspective, but it still stung. Even after surviving a targeted attempt on my life, I was being punished for making waves. How long? Month, maybe two. I'm sorry, Nate. I fought for you, but this comes from way above my pay grade. That evening, I sat in my backyard with Emily, watching planes pass overhead on their approach to Denver International. She'd always loved identifying different aircraft types, a skill I'd taught her during countless hours at the airport. That's a Boeing 737, she said, pointing at a Southwest Airlines jet. Good eye. What about that one? Airbus A320, American Airlines. Very good. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. Emily had been through trauma that would scar most adults, but she seemed to be adapting with remarkable resilience. Daddy? Yes, sweetheart? Are you sad about Mommy? The question caught me off guard. I'm sad about the choices she made. I'm sad that she hurt people, but I'm not sad that we're safe. Me neither. Emily leaned against my shoulder. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Em. More than all the planes in the sky. 2 weeks later, Omar called with news about the investigation. The DA is offering Fiona a plea deal. 25 years, eligible for parole in 15. She'll have to testify against the Sterling family's other business dealings. Other business dealings? Turns out your mother-in-law was involved in all kinds of shady stuff, money laundering, tax evasion, bribery. The FBI has been building a case against her for years, but could never get enough evidence. And now they have it? Fiona's cooperation, plus everything we found in Gloria's files. The whole Sterling empire is coming down. I felt a grim satisfaction at the news. Gloria Sterling had spent years looking down on me, treating me like I was beneath her notice. Now her precious reputation was in ruins, and her daughter was facing decades in prison. What about the lithium deposit? That's the best part. Since Gloria and Galloway are dead and Fiona is going to prison, there's no one left to challenge your ownership. You're about to become a very wealthy man, Nate. $50 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. Enough to give Emily every opportunity I'd ever dreamed of. There's one more thing, Omar said. The insurance companies want to give you a reward for exposing the fraud scheme. Another $2 million. For what? Preventing them from paying out fraudulent death benefits. Apparently, this kind of thing happens more often than you'd think. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen, trying to process the magnitude of what had happened. A month ago, I'd been a struggling mechanic worried about losing his daughter. Now I was a millionaire with full custody and a story that would be told for years to come. But the money wasn't what mattered. What mattered was Emily, safe in her room, drawing pictures of airplanes and humming to herself. I walked upstairs and found her at her desk, working on a crayon masterpiece. What are you drawing, sweetheart? It's you and me in a plane. We're flying somewhere fun. Where are we going? Anywhere we want, 'cause we're free now. Out of the mouths of babes, we were free. Free from Fiona's coldness, Gloria's manipulation, and Galloway's greed. Free to build whatever life we wanted together. Emily, how would you like to learn to fly for real someday? Her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Really? You'd teach me? When you're older, yes. Would you like that? More than anything. I hugged my daughter, breathing in that familiar scent of strawberry shampoo and innocence. She'd been through so much, but she was still the same bright, curious little girl who loved airplanes and trusted her daddy to keep her safe. Outside, another plane passed overhead, its navigation lights blinking in the darkness. Soon, Emily and I would be up there together, free as birds, with the whole sky ahead of us. The grease monkey had won after all. 3 months after the explosion, I stood in the lobby of the Colorado Women's Correctional Facility, holding Emily's hand and wondering if this visit was a mistake. She'd been asking about her mother constantly, and the child psychologist said it might help with closure. Are you sure you want to see Mommy? I asked Emily one more time. I want to ask her why she tried to hurt us. At 5 years old, Emily had developed a directness that could be unsettling. The trauma had aged her in some ways, making her more serious and thoughtful than most kids her age. Remember what we talked about? Mommy is sick, and sometimes sick people do bad things. Like Grandma Gloria was sick? Yes, sweetheart, like Grandma Gloria. The visiting room was sterile and depressing, filled with plastic chairs and fluorescent lighting. Fiona entered wearing an orange jumpsuit, her hair pulled back without makeup. She looked older, smaller somehow. diminished by the reality of prison life. Emily stared at her mother for a long moment, then climbed onto my lap without speaking. "Hi, baby," Fiona said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You look so grown up." "I'm 5 now. I had a birthday party." "I know. Daddy sent me pictures." Fiona's eyes met mine briefly. "Thank you for that." We sat in awkward silence for a few minutes, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between us. Finally, Emily spoke up. "Mommy, why did you try to hurt me and Daddy?" Fiona's composure cracked, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't want to hurt you, baby. I was confused and scared, and I made terrible choices. But you put a bomb on the plane. That was Grandma Gloria and Mr. Trent. I tried to stop them at the end, remember? After you already said it was okay." Emily's voice was matter-of-fact, without accusation. "Daddy says you were sick." "I was sick. I am sick, but that's not an excuse for what I did." I watched this exchange with mixed emotions. Part of me wanted to protect Emily from this conversation, but another part recognized that she needed to hear her mother take responsibility. "Are you better now?" Emily asked. "I'm trying to be. I talk to a doctor every day, and I'm taking medicine to help me think more clearly." "Will you come home when you're better?" This was the question I'd been dreading. Fiona looked at me helplessly, then back at our daughter. "No, sweetheart. I have to stay here for a very long time because of the bad things I did. But I want you to know that I love you, even if I can't be with you." "I love you too, Mommy. But I'm glad Daddy saved us." "Me too, baby. Me too." The visit lasted 30 minutes, with Emily asking simple questions and Fiona trying to explain the unexplainable. When it was over, Emily hugged her mother goodbye without crying. "Will you write me letters?" Emily asked. "If Daddy says it's okay?" I nodded. Despite everything, Emily deserved to maintain some connection with her mother, even if it was limited. On the drive home, Emily was quiet for a long time, processing what she'd seen and heard. "Daddy?" "Yes, sweetheart? I think Mommy is still sick." "What makes you say that?" "She kept looking at you like she wanted something, like when I want a cookie, but I know I can't have one." The observation was disturbingly accurate. Throughout the visit, I'd noticed Fiona watching me with a mixture of longing and regret, as if she still hoped for some kind of reconciliation. "You're very smart, Em. Are you still mad at Mommy?" I considered the question carefully. "I'm not mad anymore. But I'm not going to forget what happened either." "Good. Forgetting would be dangerous." Again, the mature response caught me off guard. Emily was developing wisdom beyond her years, shaped by experiences no child should have to endure. That evening, after putting Emily to bed, I sat in my home office reviewing financial documents. The lithium mining rights had been officially transferred to me, and the first royalty checks were already arriving. $50 million was a conservative estimate. Some experts thought the deposit could be worth twice that much. I'd hired a financial advisor to help manage the money, with most of it going into trust funds for Emily's education and future. But I'd also made some personal purchases that would have seemed impossible a few months ago. The biggest was a small aviation company that specialized in aircraft maintenance and charter flights. I'd bought it outright, making myself the owner instead of just an employee. The irony wasn't lost on me. Fiona had always been ashamed of my blue-collar job, but that job had ultimately saved our lives and made us rich. Omar knocked on my front door around 9 o'clock, carrying a bottle of bourbon and wearing a grin. "Thought you might want to celebrate," he said, holding up the bottle. "This is 20-year-old Pappy Van Winkle. Cost me $800. $800 for whiskey? That's insane. You're a millionaire now, brother. Time to develop expensive tastes." We sat on my back porch, sipping bourbon that tasted like liquid gold and watching planes pass overhead. The familiar routine was comforting, a reminder that some things never changed. "How's Emily adjusting?" Omar asked. "Better than I expected. Kids are resilient." "What about you?" I considered the question. "I'm angry, not at Fiona anymore, but at the whole situation. Emily shouldn't have had to go through any of this. But she did go through it, and she survived. That's what matters now. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd been a better husband. If I'd paid more attention to what Fiona needed." "Stop." Omar's voice was sharp. "Don't you dare blame yourself for what they did. Fiona made choices, Nate. So did Gloria and Galloway. You didn't make those choices for them." "I know that intellectually, But emotionally, you're a good man who got betrayed by people he trusted. That's not your fault. We drank in silence for a while, the bourbon warming my chest and loosening the knots of tension I'd been carrying for months. You know what the strangest part is? I said eventually. What? I'm happier now than I've been in years. Even with everything that happened, even with Emily's trauma and the media circus and all of it, I'm happier. Because you're free. Because I know who I am again. I took another sip of the expensive bourbon. For years, Fiona made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Like I needed to apologize for being a mechanic, for not making enough money, for not being sophisticated enough. But I'm good at what I do, Omar. I'm really good at it. Good enough to save your daughter's life. Good enough to build a life worth living. The next morning, I took Emily to the airport to show her our new company. Roswell Aviation occupied a large hangar at Centennial Airport, with space for maintenance work, charter operations, and flight training. This is all ours? Emily asked, staring up at the high ceiling and rows of aircraft. All ours. What do you think? It's perfect. She ran toward a small Cessna 172, the same type of plane I'd learned to fly in during my Air Force days. Can we go flying? Not yet. You need to be bigger first. How much bigger? Big enough to reach the pedals and see over the instrument panel. Emily stood on her tiptoes, trying to peer into the cockpit. I'll grow fast, I promise. I laughed, the sound echoing through the hangar. I'm sure you will. My new employees were a mix of experienced mechanics and young pilots, all eager to build something special. We'd already landed several contracts with corporate clients, and word was spreading about our reputation for quality work and fair prices. Roswell? One of the mechanics, a young woman named Sarah, approached with a clipboard. The Gulfstream from yesterday is ready for pickup. Everything checked out perfectly. Thanks, Sarah. Good work. It felt strange being called Mr. Roswell instead of just Nate. But I was adjusting to my new role as an owner rather than just an employee. The respect in people's voices was different now, tinged with deference that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with what I'd survived. That afternoon, Emily and I drove to the cemetery where my father was buried. I'd been meaning to visit his grave since learning about the lithium deposit, but hadn't found the courage until now. Is this where Grandpa Jack is sleeping? Emily asked as we walked between the headstones. Yes, sweetheart. This is where we come to remember him. My father's grave was simple, a granite headstone with his name, dates, and the words beloved father and veteran. He died of a heart attack 5 years earlier, never knowing that the land he'd left me would change everything. Daddy, why are you crying? I wiped my eyes, not realizing the tears had started. I'm thinking about Grandpa Jack. He would have loved you so much. Tell me about him. He was a lot like you, curious about everything, especially airplanes. He taught me how to fly when I was just a little older than you are now. Did he know about the special rocks under his land? No, baby, that was a surprise for us. A good surprise. A very good surprise. We sat by the grave for a while, Emily picking dandelions and arranging them on the headstone, while I told her stories about her grandfather. He'd been a simple man, a farmer who loved aviation and passed that passion on to his son. He never could have imagined that his worthless Montana property would one day be worth millions. Daddy? Yes? I think Grandpa Jack is proud of you. Why do you say that? Because you saved me. That's what daddies are supposed to do. You're right, sweetheart. That's exactly what daddies are supposed to do. As we drove home, I thought about the strange turns life could take. 6 months ago, I'd been a struggling mechanic married to a woman who despised me. Now, I was a wealthy single father with a thriving business and a daughter who thought I was a hero. The transformation hadn't come without cost. Emily would carry scars from her mother's betrayal for the rest of her life. I would never again trust people the way I once had. But we'd survived, and that was what mattered. Daddy, can we get pizza for dinner? Absolutely. What kind do you want? The kind with everything on it. Everything pizza it is. Some things were simple. A father's love for his daughter, the satisfaction of honest work, the taste of pizza shared with someone who mattered more than all the money in the world. As we pulled to our driveway, I noticed a news van parked across the street. Even 3 months later, reporters occasionally showed up looking for follow-up stories. But their interest was waning, and soon we'd be left alone to build our new life in peace. More picture people? Emily asked. Looks like it, but they'll go away soon. Good, I'm tired of being famous. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. That night, after Emily was asleep, I sat in my garage workshop tinkering with a small engine I was rebuilding as a hobby. The familiar work calmed my mind, connecting me to the person I'd always been beneath all the drama and trauma. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Saw you on the news again. You look good. F. Fiona. Somehow she'd gotten access to a phone and was reaching out. I stared at the message for a long time, feeling nothing. No anger, no sadness, no longing. Just emptiness where those emotions used to live. I deleted the message without responding and blocked the number. That part of my life was over, finished as completely as if it had never existed. Emily and I were writing a new story now, one where we got to choose our own ending. Outside, another plane passed overhead, its navigation lights blinking against the stars. Tomorrow, Emily and I would go back to the hangar, where she'd ask a million questions about how engines worked and when she could learn to fly. And I'd answer every question with patience and love, because that's what fathers do, that's what I do. The grease monkey had found his wings after all.